Now, listen to me. Everybody comes from somewhere, and for Alex Mitchell, that somewhere was a little town in Ohio. You know the kind of place I'm talking about. Everybody knows your name, everybody knows your business. It was a good place, a decent place. But Alex had a fire in his belly. He had a dream that was bigger than his town. He would look up at the stars at night and think, there's got to be more than this. He wasn't trying to run away from home. No, sir, he was running towards a dream. He loved his family, he loved his town, but that dream was calling his name. You hear me? Alex was a smart kid. He saw how technology was changing everything. He had this big idea, a real game changer. It was an app that could help people connect, not just for fun, but for real opportunities. He wanted to build something that could lift people up. But you can't build a skyscraper in a cornfield. You got to go where the action is. For Alex, that place was New York City, the Big Apple. He knew it was going to be tough. He knew he didn't have a whole lot of money, but he had something more important. He had faith. He had that dream tucked deep in his heart. So he packed up his one suitcase, he said his goodbyes. He got on that bus with a one-way ticket and a pocket full of hope. That's all he had. Some folks probably thought he was crazy. Why are you going to that big bad city, Alex? They probably asked. But you can't let other people's fears stop you. You can't let their small dreams keep you small. Alex knew what he had to do. He was stepping out on faith. He was betting on himself. And let me tell you something. That's the best bet you can ever make. You gotta bet on you. He arrived in New York with his eyes wide open. The city was bigger, louder, and faster than anything he had ever imagined. It was a concrete jungle for real. But he wasn't scared. He was excited. He saw the tall buildings not as something to fear, but as something to climb. He knew his journey started right there at the bottom. But he had his sights set on the top. He was ready to work. He was ready to grind. He was ready to turn that Ohio dream into a New York City reality. And that, right there, is where the story gets real. Now let me tell you, New York City don't play. It will chew you up and spit you out if you ain't ready. Alex found that out the hard way. The little bit of money he had, it disappeared faster than a free sample at the mall. He thought he'd find a good job right away, but the city had other plans. He was sending out resumes, knocking on doors, but all he heard was no. He took whatever work he could find. Washing dishes, cleaning floors, delivering food in the rain. These weren't the jobs he dreamed of, but they were jobs. They kept a little food in his stomach. But soon, even that wasn't enough. The money ran out completely. He couldn't afford a room anymore. And just like that, Alex was homeless. He was sleeping in shelters. Sometimes he slept on the subway just to stay warm. Can you imagine that? Coming to the big city to chase a dream and you end up with nowhere to lay your head. A lot of people would have given up right there. They would have packed it in and gone back home with their tail between their legs. It's easy to quit when you're at the bottom. It's the easiest thing in the world. Every day was a struggle. It was a fight just to survive. He was hungry, he was tired, he was lonely. The city that looked so full of promise now looked cold and mean. He saw people walking by in their fancy suits, going to their fancy offices, and he felt a million miles away from them. He felt invisible. The dream that burned so bright back in Ohio was starting to flicker. Doubt started creeping in, that little voice in your head that tells you you're not good enough, that tells you to just give up. That voice was talking to Alex every single day. But here's the thing about a real dream. A God-given dream. It don't go away that easy. Even on the coldest nights, even on the hungriest days, that little spark was still there. Alex would look at the faces of the other people in the shelter. He saw their struggle, he saw their pain, and it made him more determined. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. He knew his idea could help people just like them. So he held on, he gritted his teeth and told himself, this ain't the end of my story, this is just a chapter. Even when he had nothing, Alex had his idea. That was the one thing nobody could take from him. It was his treasure. After a long day of working a back-breaking job, when all he wanted to do was sleep, he would find a way. He would go to the public library. That was his office. He would stay there until they kicked him out, using their free computers. He was teaching himself how to code, line by painful line. He was drawing up his business plan on scraps of paper he found. He was building his empire in his mind. You got to understand the kind of dedication that takes. He had every excuse in the world to stop. He was tired, he was stressed, he was homeless. Who would blame him for just focusing on finding a place to sleep? But Alex knew that his current situation was not his final destination. He used his struggle as fuel. Every no he got, every door that slammed in his face, it just made him work harder. He poured all his pain, all his frustration, and all his hope into that laptop at the library. He was building his escape route. He would talk to anyone who would listen about his idea, the other guys at the shelter, the person next to him on the bus. Most people just nodded and walked away. They probably thought he was just another dreamer with his head in the clouds. They saw a homeless man, not a future CEO, but Alex didn't care what they thought. He had to believe in his idea, especially when no one else did. That's the test. Believing in yourself when you have no evidence. That's called faith. Alex was walking by faith, not by sight. Sometimes he would almost give up. The weight of it all was just too much. He would sit there, staring at the screen and think, what am I even doing? But then he would remember why he started. He would remember that dream he had back in Ohio. He would think about the people his app could help, and he would find the strength to write one more line of code, to read one more article, to fix one more bug. He was refusing to let his circumstances define him. He was proving that you are not what happens to you. You are what you choose to become. You can work hard, you can pray hard, but sometimes you need a little bit of luck. You need a breakthrough. For Alex, that breakthrough came on a cold Tuesday afternoon. There was a small tech meetup happening at a coffee shop. Alex almost didn't go. He was tired. He felt like he didn't belong. He only had a few dollars to his name, but something told him he needed to be there. So he cleaned himself up as best he could and walked in. He stood in the back, just listening, trying to soak up the energy in the room. He saw a man there, an older gentleman in a nice suit. He looked important. This was Mr. Chen, a well-known investor. Alex knew who he was. He had seen his picture in magazines at the library. Alex's heart started pounding. This was a chance, a 1 in a million shot. He could stay in the corner and let the opportunity pass, or he could take a leap of faith. He started walking towards Mr. Chen, his palms sweating. He didn't have a fancy presentation. He didn't have a business card. All he had was his story and his passion. He walked right up to Mr. Chen and said, "Sir, my name is Alex Mitchell and I have an idea that's going to change the world." Now, a man like Mr. Chen probably hears that 10 times a day. He could have just brushed Alex off. But there was something in Alex's eyes. There was a fire, a hunger. Mr. Chen saw past the worn-out clothes. He saw the passion. He saw the grit. So he said, "Okay, son, you have 2 minutes. Tell me." Alex took a deep breath and laid it all out. He talked about his app, his vision, and his journey. Mr. Chen listened. He didn't interrupt. He saw the genius in the idea, but more than that, he saw the genius in the man. He saw the resilience. He knew that a person who could build an idea while living in a shelter had the kind of determination that you can't teach. This wasn't just about a good idea, it was about backing a person who refused to be defeated. At the end of Alex's 2 minutes, Mr. Chen didn't just walk away. He pulled out a card and said, "I want to hear more. Be at my office Monday morning." That right there was the moment the rain stopped. The sun started to break through the clouds. That Monday morning meeting changed everything. But it wasn't a magic ticket, it was just an open door. Now Alex had to run through it. Mr. Chen gave him the seed money he needed. It wasn't a ton of money, but it was enough. The first thing Alex did was get a small apartment and a real computer. For the first time in a long time, he had a place to call home. He had a place to work without looking over his shoulder. But he didn't relax. No, sir, he worked harder than ever before. He knew this was his one shot, and he wasn't going to waste it. He worked 18-hour days. He lived and breathed his company, which he named Connect Up. He was the CEO, the coder, the janitor, and the coffee boy all at the same time. He hired a small, dedicated team who believed in his vision. They worked out of a tiny office that was barely big enough for all of them, but the place was filled with energy and hope. Alex led by example. He was always the first one in and the last one to leave. His team saw his passion, and it became their passion too. They weren't just building an app, they were building a movement. There were still struggles, of course there were. Building a business is not easy. There were technical glitches, there were financial pressures, there were competitors who had more money and more resources. Some days, it felt like they were taking 1 step forward and 2 steps back, but Alex remembered what it was like to sleep on the subway. He remembered what it was like to be hungry. These new problems, they were good problems to have. His resilience, the muscle he built during his toughest times, was now his greatest asset as a leader. And then it happened. ConnectUp launched. At first it was slow, but then people started to see what Alex had seen all along. They saw how the app could help them find jobs, find mentors, find real opportunities. The user numbers started to climb, first thousands, then tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands. The media started writing stories about them. They weren't just talking about the app, they were talking about the man behind it, the homeless man who became a CEO. Alex's story of resilience was inspiring people all over the world. He had done it. He had climbed the mountain. Now that Alex was successful, he could have forgotten where he came from. He could have bought a big mansion, a fancy car, and just enjoyed his money. A lot of people do that, but Alex was different. His journey taught him some powerful lessons, and he carried them with him every single day. The first lesson was simple: never, ever give up. He learned that your current situation is not your final destination. It's just a place you're passing through. Persistence is the key that unlocks the door to your dreams. You just got to keep turning it. The second lesson was to believe in yourself, even when nobody else does. When he was at his lowest point, Alex's belief in his own dream was the only thing he had. He learned that self-belief is not arrogance. It's a quiet confidence that says, I am worthy of my dreams. I have what it takes. You have to be your own biggest cheerleader. You have to be the one to tell yourself to get up when you fall down. Because if you don't believe in you, why should anybody else? That self-belief is the foundation you build your success on. He also learned to value the journey, not just the destination. He realized that the tough times, the homeless shelters, the empty stomach, they weren't just obstacles, they were his training ground. They forged him. They made him stronger, smarter, and more compassionate. He wouldn't trade those hard years for anything, because they made him the man he was. Success felt so much sweeter because he knew what it was like to have nothing. He learned that the struggle is part of the story. It's the part that gives your success real meaning, and the most important lesson of all, he learned that you have to give back. You have to reach back and pull somebody else up. Alex never forgot the faces he saw in the shelters. He started a foundation to help homeless individuals learn tech skills. He mentored young entrepreneurs who came from tough backgrounds. He knew that the true measure of his success wasn't how much money he had in the bank. It was how many lives he could change for the better. He understood that when you get to the top of the mountain, you're supposed to build a ladder for others to climb. So, what's the point of this story? Is it just a nice story about a guy named Alex? No. This story is about you. It's about the dream that's in your heart right now. Maybe you're not homeless in New York City. Maybe your struggle looks different. Maybe you're a single mom trying to get a degree. Maybe you're working a job you hate to pay the bills. Maybe you're just scared to take that first step. Alex's story is here to tell you one thing. It is possible. Your dream is possible. But you've got to be willing to fight for it. You have to be like Alex. You have to have that Ohio dream. That thing that keeps you up at night. That thing that gets you out of bed in the morning. You have to be willing to face the New York City grind, the setbacks, the no's, the moments when you feel like quitting. Everybody has those moments. The difference between people who make it and people who don't is what you do in those moments. Do you pack it in? Or do you find a public library and get to work? Do you hold on to your idea when nobody else sees it? You might be waiting for your Mr. Chen moment, your big break. And it might come, but you can't just sit around and wait for it. You have to put yourself in the coffee shop. You have to be working, preparing, and getting ready so that when the opportunity comes, you're prepared to grab it. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. You have to do the preparation part. You have to build your value. You have to become the kind of person that someone is willing to bet on. And that starts with you betting on yourself first. So I'm talking to you right now. Yes, you. What's your dream? What's the fire in your belly? Don't let your circumstances dictate your future. Don't let your fear be bigger than your faith. Look at Alex Mitchell. He went from having no home to building a home for others' dreams. If he can do it, you can do it. It's your turn. It's your time. So get up, get out there and start building. Believe in yourself. Never give up and go get the life you deserve. The world is waiting for you.